The child you've raised isn't yours.
I know. I've been infertile for years.
I never expected my marriage to fall apart on a quiet Saturday morning, but life has a way of surprising you when you least want it to. My wife, Emily, walked into the living room holding an envelope. She had this excited look on her face that just didn't feel right. Standing in front of me, she was a strange mixture of pride and fear. When she handed me the DNA test results, I felt the floor shift beneath my feet. She said she wanted to be honest. And then she told me our son wasn't biologically mine. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed, like she'd practiced this moment in her head 1,000 times. The words just hung in the air, echoing through the room until everything else went quiet. I stared at the paper, reading the numbers that confirmed her betrayal. "How long have you known?" I asked, my own voice barely a whisper. She admitted she'd suspected it for months. She told me the test was her way of trying to start fresh, to be completely transparent. But the cracks in her voice, the tremor in her hands, they revealed a lot more than she meant to say. She tried to blame it on confusion and loneliness from years ago, but none of her excuses softened the blow. She even said she hoped we could stay together for the sake of our son. All I could manage to say was that I needed time. I needed time to process everything. That night, sleep was impossible. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying every single moment of our marriage, searching for signs I had missed. I remembered the days when Emily seemed distant, the nights she stayed out late with friends, the times she'd flinch away from my touch. I thought about our son and the overwhelming love I had for him, a love that had absolutely nothing to do with DNA. But I also thought about the trust that had been shattered and the lies that had been woven so quietly into the fabric of our life together. The next morning, I had a plan. I went to the clinic to gather my own medical records. I remembered something from years ago, something Emily had never asked about, something I'd never felt the need to share. I had been diagnosed with infertility long before we ever decided to have children. It was during a routine checkup, and the doctor told me casually. At the time, it didn't seem relevant. We weren't even trying for kids yet. So I kept it to myself. Holding those documents in my hands now, a strange sense of calm settled over me. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I returned home to find Emily pacing the living room, her face etched with anxiety. She looked relieved to see me, as if she thought we might just talk it out and move on quickly. I didn't say a word. I just handed her my medical records. She frowned as she opened the envelope and began reading. I watched her expression shift from confusion to shock and finally to pure, unadulterated fear. The color drained from her face. She realized in that single moment that I had known the truth long before she ever decided to expose herself. Her hands trembled as she looked up at me, her mouth opening and closing, but no words came out. I finally broke the silence. I told her that she hadn't just lied to me. She had built our entire life together on a foundation she knew could collapse at any moment. The papers fluttered to the floor as she dropped them and began to cry, insisting she hadn't meant to hurt me. But I wasn't angry about the biology, I told her that. I was angry about the deception, the years of it. She asked if there was any chance of forgiveness. I told her that forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting, and forgetting what she did was impossible now. She started to explain how the affair began, who it was with, all the sordid details. I held up my hand and stopped her. I refused to listen. The damage was done. I told her I needed space, and I asked her to go stay with her sister for a while. She hesitated, her eyes pleading, but then she packed a bag and left quietly. The silence she left behind was deafening. The house felt emptier than it had ever felt before. I sat alone on the couch, thinking about my son. How do you explain something so complicated, so adult, to someone so young and innocent? Over the next few days, I spoke to a lawyer. I learned what my rights were. My first and only priority was making sure I could remain in my son's life, no matter what happened between Emily and me. He was innocent in all of this, and he deserved stability. Emily called repeatedly, her voicemails filled with tearful apologies and desperate pleas for another chance. She sent long text messages, promising she would change, but her words felt hollow, like echoes in an empty room. I let them all go unanswered. My focus was on my son. I picked him up from school every day, helped him with his homework, and tucked him into bed at night. Every moment with him was a powerful reminder that love doesn't require matching DNA. I watched him laugh at a silly cartoon, and I realized that parenthood isn't about biology. It's about presence. It's about showing up every single day. Emily eventually returned to the house to talk. She looked tired, defeated, but I remained firm in my decision. I told her that trust, once broken so profoundly, can't be rebuilt on a foundation of such deep lies. We agreed to separate, though she resisted the idea at first. She kept saying she didn't want to lose our family. But the truth was, she had already chipped away at it, piece by piece, long before that Saturday morning. I stayed in our home and continued to care for our son, while she struggled to come to terms with the consequences of her actions. When people around us started asking questions, she avoided giving them answers, unable to face the truth she had created. Weeks turned into months, and slowly the heavy emotional weight began to lift from my shoulders. I started to feel like myself again. I focused on building a stable, loving environment for my son. We created new routines, simple things that brought us comfort and a sense of peace. Emily continued to try and apologize, but I kept my distance. One afternoon, she asked if there was any hope for us in the future. I told her honestly that some wounds just don't heal the way people expect them to. It's not like in the movies. Eventually, she accepted that our marriage was over. She moved into her own place and started trying to rebuild her life. I stayed in the home where my son felt safe and continued raising him with all the love I had. I learned that sometimes the truth hurts more than you can imagine, but it also frees you. It frees you from the burden of secrets and lies. Through all of this, I discovered a strength in myself I never knew I had. And even though her betrayal changed everything, I realized I could still create a future for my son and me. A future built not on secrets, but on honesty, love, and the simple truth of being there for each other. Thanks for listening to my story. If you're going through something difficult, remember that you are stronger than you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about navigating life's unexpected challenges.